Good evening, my darlings of the Creative Life Coaching Group. How are you all doing? Do let me know, either if you're watching this live or on the replay, how you are as we come towards the end of January. It's felt like the longest month in the world. Does anyone else remember like the end of last year or the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day? It certainly feels like it's been about 8 months long. So I wanted to come on today and to share with you something that I have been incredibly aware of in myself for a very long time, and also in a lot of the most extraordinary of you women out there, and a lot of the incredible friends that I have. And that is something that I call false independent woman syndrome. So how do we know if that is something that we are suffering from? And I say suffering, and I say that kind of like, obviously with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek here, but it is actually really, it's something really huge that if we've been living a particular way throughout our life, that will be having quite an impact on how we show up for our creative life in the world, or for all aspects of our life. So what are some of the symptoms of false independent women syndrome, or FWS? No, FIWS as I call it. Well, the biggest thing that is an indicator of this is the feeling or thinking that one has to do everything by oneself. And that often means that we are left incredibly exhausted, pretty burnt out. Burnout is a common symptom. We might feel overwhelmed quite a lot, and that can look like kind of being quite irritated, and really this sense that we're not actually giving ourselves what we need. It's no simple thing to say that we seem to be living in a world that is getting faster and faster and faster, and so much of that is, and I'm very aware of the irony of this, so much of this fast world is very much to do with the reliance on social media, on the amount of things that we can scroll and turn to, all of the ways that we can be distracted, that can grab our attention. And this sense of this hyper productivity, I'm absolutely guilty of that one myself. It's a sense of our little hamster feet are constantly doing that, even more so on this wheel of our own lives. And kind of get to a point where we're like, what's happening here? And what happens really when we're in this place is that we can end up quite empty. And I mean empty in a sense that we are not necessarily turning that giving, because it's very much a giving energy, this false independent woman syndrome, giving to everything, to everybody, to all of the stuff on our endless to-do lists, all of the time, without ever stopping to say no. So if you're just joining, do say hello if you are watching this video. It is always lovely to see who I am talking to. And it is a big aspect. A lot of the things about false independent women syndrome is very much to do with how we were brought up, how we had to manage life perhaps in the earlier years in our family dynamics, which gave us this sense of having to be perhaps more grown up than we actually were. Maybe we had more responsibilities that were put onto us at a time, more duties. Maybe we had to become more of the caregivers in the family. And there could have been a sense at that very early age that unless we did the things that needed to be done, they weren't going to be taken care of by anyone else. Another aspect to this is perhaps that we weren't given, hi Sue, hello sweetheart, perhaps we weren't necessarily given a hand with or listened to, we weren't given an ear to the things that were important to us when we were younger. And so maybe after a certain amount of time of this happening and feeling that sense maybe of disappointment around that, of our expectations that others would be there for us, we basically got to a point somehow, probably very subconsciously, where we thought, look, we can't rely on other people. We have to do this ourselves if we want this particular experience out of our life. And that is a blueprint that would have got stuck, but we would have been living our life in. There are many of us perhaps that are single parents. There are many of us that are the main breadwinner. Such a strange term that, isn't it, breadwinner? I've never won any bread. Has anyone else ever won any bread? I don't know if I want to win any bread, to be honest. I'm not fondest of bread. Maybe some really nice pastries or the really nice desserts and piccolinos. I went there yesterday for a very early birthday lunch with my mum and dad, and they brought a little surprise strawberry looking thing with a candle in to sing happy birthday, which was very cute. And I was a bit like, not fond of strawberries. I know I'm going completely off topic here. And then I asked them to put it in a little box for me to take home. And then yesterday evening, I was like, oh, I've got that pastry from Piccolinos. Piccolinos, for those of you that are not in Manchester or the UK, is a very nice Italian restaurant. I really like it. That is in the city centre. It's near me. It's one of my favourite places to go and eat. Oh my God. I got this thing out. They said it was a strawberry cheesecake. I was like, no, I'm not massively fond of strawberries. Fucking hell. I bit into this last night. And I spent about 10 minutes, it's only a small thing, having the most erotic taste bud sensation experience with this dessert. It was possibly one of the nicest things I've ever eaten. So there we go. Just wanting to put that little strawberry cheesecake experience into this live here today. Going back to the false independent woman syndrome. So we've done everything ourselves, being the main breadwinner, brought up perhaps the children, sorted out this, that and the other. We've always had to kind of, sort our bills out. We've had to be the one that is responsible for the structure, the routines, for organising things, for booking things when we've had to do so. And if we are a creative, we've probably been also the one that's held the space of our own creative process, and then everything around that as well, including putting our work out there into the world, finding people who resonate with that, finding buyers, exhibitions, possibilities, opportunities, so on. So all the marketing and the promotion, it's enough to just make you want to go and have a big lie down right now. I know it does for me sometimes. And it's an interesting thing, because to people on the outside of that, we probably look incredibly well put together. Like we've got our shit together, There is an admiration for that ability to be so independent and to be so self-sustaining. Okay, there's a positive aspect. We're not have this sense of dependence on others, which can sometimes feel a little bit like, especially if we've been too used to living in this state, we can feel a sense of, does that make me very needy? I don't want to be needy. Does that make me feel a little bit like, oh, I'm a victim to life, a little bit kind of collapse? I don't want to have that reliance on anybody else. But it can get to a certain point where we realize that this is not the most healthy of behaviors, especially I think as we get older, and especially as I know many of you are, and perhaps many of the people that I'm thinking of who are very similar age to me. We get to this point of midlife, perhaps we're perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal, maybe the kids have grown up as well now. And we're realizing very much that we don't actually have the same kind of energy to be able to sustain that false independent women syndrome for much longer. It also means that we stay in this kind of separation bubble that we've created, having to do everything ourselves. Now, one of the things that for me for a very long time, when I was very much in this state myself, I didn't really know how to connect into that sense of community with others. Yeah, this sense of belonging into or fitting into. And a big part of this as well, because there's a difference between fitting in and belonging. Belonging is a natural state of being. We simply belong. Yeah, and with that there is absolutely nothing that we need to do. Hello gorgeous, hi Sharon. So a state of belonging is just simply being who we are, knowing that who we are is enough. There's nothing we need to do to prove ourselves, to protect ourselves, and so on. Trying to fit in, on the other hand, which we probably did when we were younger, hence why we turn to being false independent women, is when we try to fit in, when we try to, you know, play the game of the family dynamics or the schoolyard dynamics or the, you know, the people that maybe you were friendly with at college or at your workplace or kind of where you lived. And when we try and fit in, it means that we change the shape of who we are. We might tone down those aspects of ourselves that feel a bit like, ooh, or is that too much? Maybe we've had, you know, certain looks or comments or maybe even feedback from other people as well. So there's one aspect of how we don't basically just belong in the world. One is we try and fit in that way and then get to a certain point in our life where we don't actually know who we are. And for a lot of women, again, at this midlife point, can be this sense of all this kind of a rising rage for the fact that we've done that to ourselves, that we've denied who we are out into the world, that we've changed ourselves, we've contracted our sense of ourself and our voice and our visibility and what it is that we are here to do and how we can relate to others. So we might pull away from that, and maybe this is what we did when we were younger, when we decided that we didn't want to fit into that, is we went the other way. And by going the other way, we said we don't need anyone else. The false independent woman will have this blueprint of a subconscious belief running underneath that goes, I don't need anyone. That believes that having needs is neediness, and that is unattractive quality to have in the world. That believes that that dependence on others will only lead to a sense of disappointment, maybe betrayal, maybe disloyalty. And so it's best just to be a self-contained being moving through life. Unfortunately, that is not the case, because we're not. We belong. We belong together. I'm sure there's a song. We belong. I don't know. I can't remember the rest of it. I'm tired. It's a long day. I don't know what's going on with the astro energies right now, but I think there's something going on in the air. Just feeling quite whacked every day at the moment and having really strange dreams as well, like really macabre, disturbing dreams, which might be the book I'm reading as well late at night, which is absolutely amazing. But anyway, I'm digressing again. Sharon says that resonates. Yeah, we go one way or the other. And how that can show up actually in relationships is there's either that collapsing into a relationship where the other is almost the savior or the rescuer for us, or we go completely the other way, and that can lead to us disconnecting from people, from cutting off quite sharply, from leaving connections when things get a little bit more challenging. So we go either into that collapse, neediness place, which we don't like, we're quite disgusted by, we'll be disgusted by that behavior in others as well, or we go into absolute and utter opposite direction. We don't need anybody, we easily cut off from other people, and actually it's a very painful place to be. We don't realize how much we belong to each other, and particularly to those people in our lives that care about us. And when we do that part, that extreme of turning away, moving away, leaving, how much that can be hurtful for somebody who has really opened their heart for us to be in their life, in whatever context that might be. I've certainly done both of those in the past, not realizing what was going on. So there is a middle place here, and the middle place is the place of healing the false independent woman syndrome. And often, again, we can know that we're in this, apart from all the things that I've mentioned, because there's a part of us that has this feeling, and it can be a bit of a kind of icky feeling, upon witnessing others that seem to belong, that seem to have this sense of tribe, that seem to have these intimate, more connections. Oh, hello, sweetheart. Hi, JL. Just finished going off about tits and censorship. If you don't ever come on here one day and don't talk about tits, I know there's something wrong, basically. Great to be here to shift energy. Welcome, welcome. So I was just saying that another way that we can know we're in false independent woman syndrome, apart from the collapsing neediness or just fucking off, is that there is this feeling of there's a desire, there's a hunger, there's a yearning to have that same kind of belonging, that intimacy, that sisterhood that we might see going on with others. The big female wounding that we carry with us in this lifetime, and this is due for many reasons, a big reason around this is the patriarchal fear of the power of womanhood, the power of sisterhood. And this wounding is the suspicion of other women. So rather than having the connection, the collaboration, the community, the support of other women, the confidence, the connections, the co-creations, the celebration, the encouragement, the big wounding is in turning towards competition. We're not meant to be in competition with each other as women. It's not the nature of who we are. You know, if you think back to those, I say think back, unless you've like kind of got a memory of every single lifetime, but if you think about things that maybe you've seen, you've read, you've heard around what it was like living as a woman back in the day, when we did live together in community and tribe, we would have been in entrainment, I think that's the right word, and we would have bled at the same time each month, and that's where red tents came from. Women would bleed at the same time, we would all go off to the red tent away from all the men, and we would just be together for that time. We would nourish each other, we would massage each other, we would probably tell each other really raucous and obscene and dirty stories, make each other laugh, good old hearty belly and boob laughter, and we would fill each other with the nourishment that we can only get from other women. And there's a lot of women in the world at this time, especially around the generations that we are, that I've heard this said, or you might resonate with this yourself, that I've found it hard to have those more intimate sisterhood relationships. And maybe it's been easier to have formed those bonds and relationships with men, which is obviously really beautiful, but not necessarily so with other women. And perhaps you've been aware of that. There's been a suspicion, there's been a sense of I can't trust other women. You know, women are bitches, or they take this away, or they'll steal my man, or, you know, all of these kind of stories. Yes, so fascinating. It is, isn't it? The way that we've kind of moved away from this. This was the case for me. When I first started working with my then teacher in Spain that I worked with for 10 years, this is how I started off. They're very much in this separation place from all of the world, to be honest. And I was invited to join, at the time it was just starting this place, so I was invited to join this group of women. There was only, I think, 5 or 6. Dear Rose, who I think is part of this group, was one of them at the time. And so interesting. My teacher at the time obviously saw that as a wounding me very strongly. And she'd set up like this separate little area in the dance studio. We used to dance, and then at the end everyone would like kind of huddle together and like snuggle together. And I couldn't do it. I didn't feel like I could do it. I didn't belong in that. And my teacher had set up a little area on the other side of the room that I could go and lie down and relax into. And I felt just this deep pain, this deep pain at my heart, of this deep wanting to go up and snuggle with these other women, and feeling like I couldn't, or I didn't belong, and I had no part in that, so I was just alone and isolated in my own little corner. Eventually, particularly over that week, over time, that changed, that shifted, and I was able to realize my belonging in that group, of how much I belonged, how much they wanted me as well. So there is this part of this false independent women syndrome, which is about suspicion of other women. And it's interesting looking at Facebook sometimes, it's interesting running a business as a woman solo entrepreneur, seeing how much that can come up online, seeing where you can spot that from people's messaging, from how women support other women, how we celebrate each other, where it comes up in myself as well. It still comes up sometimes, the jealousy or the envy, almost a sense of, and this is part of my own journey when I was younger, that there wasn't room for both of us to shine, or for all of us to shine, for all of us to have our space and place in the world equally. That was ours, it was our birthright, alongside each other, so we could stand in a line together, taking up that space. There didn't have to be a hierarchy. And I was just saying to the amazing group in the Creative Revolution Keys we started last week, talking about community. The root of the word community, the original meaning, means to come together with gifts. You come together to bring your gifts being who you are. By being you is what you contribute naturally to the belonging of your tribe, your community, your family. You know, the family we make as we get older, which is our chosen friends that we invite in to the space of our life. Let's have a look. Sharon says, I haven't been able to fully trust or bond with other women yet, although at the same time I yearn for that. Yeah, there will be this yearning there. Yeah. And maybe that's changing, darling. I see you. I think that's changing. But I'm also hearing you, and I'm also know from what you've shared with me before, that is something you're wanting to open to a lot more as well. And there's something really brave about saying that. So I really applaud that for you and anyone else that maybe is resonating. And again, if you're watching this on the replay, you're resonating, please let us know in the comments below. A lot of these places we can hold a lot of shame around, can't we? You know, that keep us in the separation of the story. Because these are stories. Though, of course, we might have had things happen to us that have given us that wounding very strongly in the first place, which is incredibly unfortunate. But there is hope here. And that hope lies in this middle place I was saying before, between that kind of neediness, collapse, almost like being overwhelmed too much, giving all our power away, not having our own space or voice in that, and the part of us that's like, no, I don't need anybody, I'll do it all myself, be alone in the world, which often leads to loneliness rather than aloneness, because there is still this yearning. So what is this middle place? This middle place, my darlings, is the vulnerability of not knowing. It's the vulnerability of, rather than running away because we feel uncomfortable in that space with other women, we don't know how to be, we stay. We say to ourselves first, if we're able to, if the women feel safe enough to, we say to them, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to stay in connection, relationship. I want to. In this belonging of this particular community right now. I don't know how to do this, but I am willing to stay. It will feel hard. It will feel like every part of you wants to run off, close off again into your own safe but lonely and dissatisfying in so many ways, an unfulfilling little bubble. Staying in that place of vulnerability is where everything happens, because as soon as we come into a group space with others, we can't control that space. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what we're going to say next, do next. We don't know what anyone else is. So all the time it is alive, moving, evolving, surprising, full of rich possibilities and treasures if we are willing to stay. place of vulnerability. The other part that goes with this is learning boundaries. The thing is, if we've never had anyone when we were younger wanting to hear our needs and to honour them, and has taught us how important our own needs are, then we won't even know that what our needs are in the right now. This is really interesting. If we are recovering from this place, we have to understand, what do I need? And it's only when we understand what we need that we can apply boundaries to put in place. And what that means is that boundaries are porous. Yeah, they're breathable, they breathe. And boundaries are not about keeping people out with this wall. They're about who we allow into the more intimate space of our heart, that we can trust more deeply. So our boundaries are there for us to keep the shape of who we are. And someone mentioned the word dignity the other day, and it's really been a word that's come up for me quite a lot as well. I think boundaries give us our dignity so we can enter into the spaces with others, holding the shape of who we are, bringing the needs of who we are that we're clear about, and then able to breathe, to be in that space, to relax, to look out, to listen then to what is around, to receive, and then to respond back to that, to contribute, to see how we can create together whatever it is needed at that time. Let's have a look. Sharon says, yes, I'm starting to heal that wound now. I know you are. I celebrate that. Sue says, I love women's company. I have some great friendships where I see them as divine queens and want the best for them and celebrate them and uphold them in all their glory. That is so beautiful and absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I know that you do that as well, because it's glorious. Seeing women as fellow queens, thank you for that, Sue, is absolutely glorious. Helping others when their crowns are slipped. You know, they've kind of forgotten that they're a queen. It's like, come on, love, let's put your crown on properly here. You know, look at you, how amazing you are. It's a funny thing. It's a really funny thing how we are with each other as women. We're powerful. We are powerful. But, you know, keeping women in competition, you just have to look. You know, I used to remember, and again, we were talking about this when I did the saw ball crafting workshop on Sunday, which was fucking amazing for those of you that missed it. Seriously, that workshop for me is like one of the creme de la creme things that I absolutely offer into the world, and wow. But I was talking about remembering all those shit magazines that I used to read. My mum used to get loads of them, so when I'd go round to hers for dinner, maybe once a week or every other week, I'd come back with piles of these. I'd be dead excited to get in the bath and read them. And but most of those magazines, I don't know now because I don't even glance at those. Oh my God, they're just bitch heaven, aren't they? They're just bitchy, nasty. Look at the weight on her, you know, look at her face on that, look how much she's changed. That one's gone after that one's man and fellow, and wow, just poison. Those magazines, they should just be called poison. Poison for women, you know, crazy. Seeing how much the media contributes, like all the stuff around, whatever you think of the royal family, you know, Meghan and Harry, you know, the amount of vitriol towards that woman is mind-blowingly disgusting, because she's a woman. You know, it's almost like we can get away with being this disgusting towards other women. Where the fuck is the dignity towards other women? How are we allowing that to be the case towards other sisters in the world? I mean, really, when you start to think about it, you can hear our warrior ancestor women like just getting really fucking like roaring and raging and banging sticks on the ground and going, enough. This is not how you stand in the world as a woman, you know, if you can feel that as well. Yeah, Sharon, absolutely, divide and conquer, or keep women in competition, because we are powerful. When we come together, we can move mountains as women. We really can. So yeah, exactly. But doesn't that just show you? It shows you exactly why. Because of that reason, how powerful we can be when we come together. What change can happen. You know, look at all the women that started to speak up years ago around, you know, the what's his name, Harvey, what's his face, and how that spread, what that accomplished. you know, this rising of women's voices to bring that truth that's from our belly, from our wombs, from our pussies. It's just, this is the voice of, this is all raw, really. It can be very quiet, that as well. You know, you can see how this false independent women syndrome, more and more and more, as we're talking about all of this, or I'm talking with you, but you're hearing, you can see why it's become such an epidemic in the Western world that we live in. JL says they fear the day we come together and combine our power. Yeah. You know, and it's funny, isn't it? Because you look at that word power, JL, and it's true power. It's heart. It's power with. It's coming together for a cause that is greater than us, for all of us, for the whole community. However, the power that we see playing out all the time is power over, power under, all of the time. You know, it's got it so wrong. So how do we, I've mentioned some of the things, vulnerability, understanding what our needs are. Like I say, if you're recovering false independent women syndrome, then to begin with, when you ask yourself, what do I need? The honest answer to begin with when you check in is, I don't know. It could be for quite a while. I really don't know. I don't know what I need. I don't know. I've changed my shape for so long. I don't know. I've never asked myself. I don't know. I've been giving all the time to others. And as I always say, I don't know is one of the most extraordinary prayers that we can have. I don't know what I need. Even the simple things like, do I need to go to the toilet? Do I need a glass of water? You know, the most sustaining things. Do I need to go outside for a walk? Do I need to ring a friend? What do I need? I don't know. Female Uprising 2024. Oh yeah, absolutely. I have something, not today. This is just a live today. I'm not selling anything today, darlings. But I have something coming around this, actually, because I feel it. Maybe others feel it too. It's really there. It's like we can't anymore. All the stuff that's going on, disempowerment, abuse of women, that's everywhere still in the war. I can't, you know, this is bigger than this conversation right now. Though I'd love to hear your thoughts, and, you know, either here or you can message me if there's other things coming up as well. Let's create this. You know, I'm very much about the revolution, the creative revolution, and that is about our power as women from our creative hearts and what we create together. You know, I'm all for this collaboration. I always talk about this as well. Me and Sue, you know, all the beautiful photos that you might have seen me posting a lot in the last couple of months are from my collaboration with darling Sue, one of my dear sisters, which was just juicy for both of us. It's wondrous when we do that together. Very, very nourishing. So, alongside the vulnerability of staying, not collapsing, staying in our own self, being willing to be in that place of getting clearer, more curious about our needs, and again the vulnerability of holding a space of not necessarily even knowing what those are, being able to be clear about our boundaries so that we can stay in the shape of who we are in the world, so we don't have to disappear or collapse. The other aspect of this is about asking for help, and not just asking, but then receiving. This is one of the ways we can heal this. One of my favourite women in the world is Amanda Palmer. I've talked about her in the past. And she wrote an incredible book, maybe about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that, called The Art of Asking. It's wonderful. You could actually get it on Audible. It's her reading it, and she sings songs at various points through it as well. It's just a delight. For her, the idea of asking others to support her, to support her art, I mean, she's just living, breathing art as far as I'm concerned. For her, just felt absolutely impossible. She didn't know how to do it. She'd done everything herself, even to the point of, you know, leaving her big record company. I think it was Sony or one of those at a certain point when they wanted more than she wanted to give them, and set up kickstarting and now has a Patreon, and everything she does is supported by her fans. She's not made shitloads of money. All her money goes to her making art, but the fans that she has, her supporters, love her. They're her tribe. That's the main thing for her. Her big thing is connection. Ever since the very beginning that she started being an artist, she used to be one of those street artists, you know, it stands living, I think she was called the living bride, the giant bride or something, or the 10-foot bride, and she'd be one of those statues. But for her, it was always the moment of connection when someone reached out to give her, I don't know, $1, a quarter, whatever it was back in the day. It was the moment for her when she'd stop being the statue, take the rose she was carrying, and she'd lean forward and give it to the person and make eye contact. And for her, it was all about connection. It's never been about the money for her. But she's talked about in The Art of Asking, the whole book is about how difficult that was for her, how terrifying that was for her. And even when, sadly, they are now divorced, she was married to Neil Gaiman, who I introduced Sharon to the other day through his beautiful speech, which I might put on this, I will put on this group actually. Oh, I love Neil Gaiman. She said, because he's very wealthy, I mean, he's, yeah, very wealthy. But she just couldn't receive. She could not. He kept wanting to give her money to help her with her art, you know, to make whatever show she wanted to make next and so on. And she just couldn't. Even though she was married to him, she's like, I can't. You know, and I think he started to teach her, to soften her, to receive that it was okay for her to do so. That it wasn't like, I'm going to need this from you back again. You know, the suspicion around allowing another person to gift, you know, to support. And I think this is a really huge one for a lot of us women as well. It's a very feminine energetics to receive. And it can feel, in some ways, a bit like that neediness, a little bit collapsed, a little bit disempowered. But it's actually very much the opposite. It's an incredibly powerful place to allow ourselves to receive. It's one of my things for this year of learning how to receive. I realised that if I want to keep expanding, this word swell came up for me at the weekend, doing this soul board. I keep feeling into it. It's expanding all these aspects of my heart, my energy, my life, my abundance. Then I have to allow in. It's not just about wanting all this expansion. That's one aspect, wanting more in our lives. But are we allowing ourselves to receive more? You know, and the art of receiving really stretches. It can feel like our heart is literally breaking. Yeah, as the heart receives even more. Sue's saying, I'm loving receiving at the moment from everyone. Oh, it is a delight, isn't it? I'm learning, darling. Be the expansion. Maybe I need to hang out with you more. I've started this, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more. I thought I was coming here to do like 10 minutes because I was knackered, but I feel quite energized now, so I'm just going to carry on. If you're still there, I love you very much and thank you. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you, thank you. It's a good topic. I didn't realise there's going to be so much coming out with it. Sharon says, I just asked my dad for financial help today, something which would have terrified me in the past, but I held that part of myself and asked bravely and without apology, and he said yes with love. Oh, Sharon, I feel that, sweetheart. That is so beautiful. It's a grace. The thing is, we forget that when we receive from somebody, we allow that person to give. Yeah, the gifting. If we don't receive, we block. Yeah, compliments. I'm always noticing this so much with a lot of my girlfriends recently. Your hair looks lovely, I said to my friend the other night. Oh, she said, I've not washed it. It's great. I was like, just, your hair looks lovely. She's like, thank you. You know, watching ourselves, receiving compliments, how, again, the vulnerability of that, the ickiness, the awkwardness of what do I do here? You know, am I allowed to take that in? Yes, well, I will speak with you, Sue, my love. So I've had this year. I've had a partner who basically has offered to me, this is while I was in Spain, to support me if needed while we're on our trip away, meaning let's go for longer and see where an adventure goes. And it's not a, you know, I was going to support you full stop, I'm going to whisk you away, you know, on the back of my white horse kind of thing, which I don't want that either. It's a, if that is needed, I would like to extend that support. My response at like 8 in the morning, because he's the other side of the world, I just burst into tears. My heart just cracked. I found like I had to, and he's the same as me, so he understood. I was like, I need to go away and just let this land. Sometimes receiving takes a while. For me, it felt like love. For me, it felt very, there was no conditions on it. And it felt quite new. It's an incredible gift. New for me as well to say yes to that, because I've always done everything myself. I also, because it's my birthday this Friday, yay, having a little get together. Don't want any presents. But I've asked my friends that are coming, if they want to, that is, to contribute something monetary wise so I can buy a really good rucksack to take away with me. I was really like, oh, this feels really like that to put that out. What they're gonna say? It's always that bit, isn't it? The response, pretty much immediately, was again this outpouring of love. This, oh my God, yes, this thank you for your clarity of asking. I got that a few times from people. It's interesting. Supporting your dream of going off. I'd love to. Well, that's not what I thought was going to happen. And just the end of last week, we're looking at what is our genius in the creative revolution keys, and I put out onto Facebook quite tentatively again, a little bit like, is anyone going to, a bit of me was like, oh, there's going to be loads of responses, another bit of me was like, hope no one sees it, asking people what they thought my zone of genius was, because I want to learn how to receive. That was scary to do. What are people going to say? Or is no one going to say anything? Or, you know, what is that? And the responses I got from that, just beautiful. So it's still a little like that for me, of almost like, and then, oh, you know, people do love to give. We forget this. Don't you love to give to your friends, your dear ones, your loved ones, if they are asking you for something? And there is something about the clarity. You know, when you're with somebody and they're not, you know, you can tell that maybe they want something, they need something, but they're not voicing that clearly with a responsibility, with their own shape. But you can feel it. It's a little sticky and icky. You don't want to say, oh, I'll give you, you know, do you need this? Because you want them to go, I actually, can I ask? I need to ask for this. Because we risk the no. That's the risk of asking life. But then look at how it can be. Life will go, oh my God, yes. With love, as Sharon has said, as I've been experiencing. Yay, thank you. I am like a kid sometimes on my birthday. I like to tell everybody, you know, sometimes I'll go to the shop and tell the cashier it's my birthday today, because I'm like a child with it all. And that's fine. That's a real art of receiving, isn't it? That's another one. Do you celebrate your birthday? I never used to until about just over 10 years ago, just before I turned 40. Never used to. It was always like, oh, no, can't. And then something in me changed to go, yeah, actually, I want to receive being celebrated. And that by the people that I love. So it's a very conscious thing for me doing this, and I like celebrating my friends as well. So this is another thing. Do you allow yourself to be celebrated on things like your birthday? You know, which we all have a birthday. And if you're born on a leap year, you're going to have a birthday this year as well. So no one gets away with saying, oh, well, I don't have a birthday this year. Not this time. You celebrate it for a full week. Yeah. I'd love to know. There's another thing. Let me know when it is your birthday. You don't have to put it on here because I probably forget. I knew it was Annie's because she told me, because she's booked a tarot reading with me. So I wanted to say it in this group, happy birthday. You know, well, let's celebrate each other. It's such a lovely thing to do. JL says, I had some horrible birthdays when I was younger, so now I'll make a big deal about it. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, there's always that way to change those stories. Libra, fellow air sign. And a beauty. Libras are very, apparently, Libras and Pisceans are seen as the beauties of the zodiac, apparently. One more thing I want to share just in this particular conversation. Something that you might want to practice and play with. And there's two aspects to this. We have to kind of touched a little bit on one of them. We've touched actually a little bit on both of these, but the first thing that I'm inviting you to maybe just to play or to explore or be curious about is what I call the ridiculous ask. If you are willing to dare. Oh, it's giving me shivers as I say this. What is the ridiculous ask? The ridiculous ask for you might be, I mean, you know, that's huge. It might be, as Sharon so beautifully shared with us, asking her father to help her at this particular time. I know you're going through lots of stuff and changes right now, Sharon. It might be asking, you know, for your coffee to be heated up, or can they have another coffee because it's cold when you get it? You know, have you ever done that and gone, oh, okay, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, that might be your ridiculous ask because you don't normally do that. You know, it might be asking, I don't know, whatever it could be for you. What is an edge for you? What would be an edge for you? What would be a ridiculous ask that you could play with this week? It's just a little bit beyond what you normally go, oh, okay. And it's very much connected to your needs, to your wants and your desires, which again we play with on the Soul Board workshop. So, you know, it's one thing having those. We have to then be able to ask, knowing, fully knowing that we might get a million no's, which brings me to the second part of this, which is embracing 100 rejections. So they go together. They're such fun. I did a masterclass on this last year. If I can find it somewhere, if it's public, I will post it. If it's, I think it's a paid program, I will let you know as well. So the ridiculous ask, what would be your ridiculous ask? Because then you can start to play with it. Maybe it's writing to, dear Leonardo DiCaprio, I know I'm over the age of 25, so don't worry, this is not a love letter, but would you come and sing happy birthday at my big sister's or my little sister's birthday, because she's infatuated with you as an actor and thinks you're amazing, and we live in Hollywood. You know, I'm just literally making this up, obviously. It's a ridiculous ask, but you write, you know, your favourite writer, dear Stephen King, would you mind having a little look at this, or could you give me some advice on that? You know, find his like fan thing and send it off. What's your ridiculous ask? You know, if you're running a business, or if you're working with your art, you could ask your art something crazy. That might sound strange, but if you're an artist, you'll kind of get a sense of, you know, we're in a relationship with our art. Ask your partner for something that you've never asked them. Ask your friend. Ask your family. Ask yourself. Ask life. What is your ridiculous ask for life this year? You dare to ask, knowing there is absolutely no guarantee, and you might get a rejection. Zing! Great, because we're looking to get to 100 rejections. That's the game. We're twisting it around. It's not, oh, shit, what if I get a no? It's like, fuck, I need the no's because I want to get to 100 rejections. Let's have a look what we've got here. What does this sound like? Sue says, I love it. JL says, I want my husband to run me a bath, massage my feet and back, and bring me coffee in bed. Ask! I'll ask him tomorrow. Yeah, let us know. Sharon says, oh, that's an edge. It is. But can you feel the excitement with it? If we start to make it into a game, it's just a game. JL says, I want him to compliment my tits and butt too. Of course you do, girl. Absolutely. I need him to write me a love letter, then recite it by candlelight. I think I'm nicking some of these. I'm loving where you're going with this. I'm excited. Yeah. Sue says, it's such a great way of reversing it all. More no's for yeses. It's exactly this. When I watched the Sly Stallone documentary last year, when I was watching all these documentaries of people, because creative process, creative minds, interesting. I think it was him that said he'd got to the point where he'd had so many rejections. The power over fear of failing had gone. There was nothing to fail anymore. There was no more. The rejection thing just didn't mean anything to him because he'd had so many. So it was, what did he say? It said it was impossible for him to fail. Can you imagine getting to that point where you're so not scared of asking any more life? Oh, that's got me well excited now. And I tell you what, it's a very turned on way to live. And you know I'm all about the eros and the turn on, my darlings. It's a very turned on way to live, because we cut down slightly. So just ending with what we're really speaking about, the false independent women syndrome, the self-contained. Where is your edge for that? Where can you ask someone, will you help me with this? I feel like, you know, will you look over this for me? Can I ask you advice around that? You know, you're good at this. Can I ask you, obviously I'll pay you, blah, 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 to do this for me. Would you collaborate with me around this? I'm bored of collaborating myself. It's a lonely thing to do. Would you go for a walk with me and let's do this? Can you this? Blah, 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 blah. Stepping out. We have to step out. We step out, life will come and meet us. It always does. It won't from where we are. It won't come and yank us up off the ground. And we don't want to do that with others, and we don't want others to do that with us, really. We want to meet from an equal place of power. We want to meet life from that equal place of power, because we have no idea what is possible, the strength, as we said earlier, when we come together. Sharon says, I love that. So, my darlings, no more false independent women. It's boring. It's boring, really. It's boring. It's so 80s. I'm saying, so 80s. It's so yesterday. It's so patriarchal. You know, let's be out there with each other, you know, in the world. Let's celebrate each other. Let's laugh together. Let's cry together. Let's fuck up together. Let's, you know, support each other when we need. But we have to ask. Yeah, we have to ask. We have to make ourselves vulnerable. And we have to be clear in our boundaries of what is right for us, so we stay in our dignity and treat each other with that same dignity and respect as well. I want to collaborate. I just want to say I always do. I always do. So, you know, people that have great ideas, or if you have any ideas, you want to collaborate with me, I say this to all of you, those of you that are on here now, those of you that are watching later, you're in this group for a reason. I'm always open to great creative collaborations if they feel right. Again, this is where we come in with our sense of knowing and our boundaries of yeah, this would be a great thing to do. Ooh, JL, oh yes, been wanting to collaborate. Why am I waiting for someone to ask? Great talk, Feel excited and ready. Beautiful. Awesome live, Heidi, says Sharon. It's an absolute pleasure. I have to say I had no idea what I was going to talk about today. And here we go. So, my darlings, go well. Thus, and just to say actually as well, I will just say this, you know, one of the things that for me that is such a part of my managing the false independent woman syndrome for me is I have a therapist once a month, and I needed her a few years ago when I was going through a difficult time, and then I got rid of her. I was fine again, off I go, and then had a wobble again a couple of years back, and then got back in contact and worked with her once a month. And I remember saying to her last year, I said, you know what I realised? I said, it's not about needing you all the time. It's not about I only have this connection with you, relationship, when I need you. I like having this connection once a month, whether there's stuff going on I want to talk about, or whether I arrive to a session going, all's good, I don't really know what to say today, and we just talk about this and that. For me, it feels part of knowing I am in threads of connection with others. The same with my life coach. I have a life coach that I work with. We work together with each other for the last year and a half now, and it is extraordinary, so rich, you know. So just saying, I am a life coach. I am the life coach for an erotic creative life. So if you're somebody that's always done yourself and you've kind of been, you know, wondering about working with someone, schedule a call with me, no obligation. We could have a chat. We create more when we come together. Thank you, darling, for your inspiration. It's an absolute pleasure, Sue. Thank you all. Do let me know in the comments what resonates from this. This has been a very juicy live. Really appreciate all of your presence, your engagements. Always what I want to create, that collaboration, a discussion. Let me know if you have any other topics you would like me to talk about in these lives. These are for you. Yeah, my intention is always to try and come on once a week, share something. But I really love things that come from you. Would you share about this? Would you talk about this? Have you got any thoughts around this? Aspects of creative life, creativity, living, being a woman, midlife, all of the juicy stuff. Just let me know. You know, reach out, ask. Have your ridiculous ask. Go well into the evening. Love you very much, all of you. I really appreciate you being in this world, and I will see you soon.